Welcome back to Talking Papers Faceless podcast. I'm Shaquille.
And I'm Asa.
So glad you could join us for another deep dive.
We're here every Monday and Thursday.
Unpacking some fascinating topics.
So hit that subscribe button.
Like this episode.
And let us know what you think down in the comments.
We love hearing from you.
Yeah. And if there's a topic you're just dying for us to tackle,
oh, please.
leave a comment and let us know.
Today, we are taking on a real business classic.
A game changer.
The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton M. Christensen.
You've probably heard the title.
Thrown around a bit.
But this book, it goes deep.
Into why some of the most successful companies.
Well, they stumble.
They fall.
And it's not about bad companies.
No.
It's about good companies.
Making good decisions.
Seemingly smart decisions
that
lead to their downfall.
What's so fascinating is how Christensen shows us that these aren't companies that are ignoring the market.
Right.
Or making bad choices.
They're listening to their customers.
They're investing in technology.
They're doing everything right.
But they're still losing their edge.
It really is fascinating.
So how does that happen? What's the trap in doing everything right?
The nature of the innovation itself.
Okay.
Christensen argues that companies, they often miss out on what he calls disruptive innovations.
Okay.
Because they seem, at first, less appealing than those steady improvements that the companies are already making.
Okay, let's unpack this idea of disruptive innovation.
Sure.
It sounds like a contradiction.
Yeah.
How can innovation be disruptive?
Imagine you're the CEO of a company making really high-end, powerful, expensive cameras.
Okay.
You're constantly improving, adding features, listening to your professional photographer customers.
Right.
Then along comes this new technology, digital cameras.
Mm-hmm.
At first, they're grainy, low resolution.
Right.
They appeal only to amateur photographers.
Yeah.
So do you, as the CEO, just drop everything and chase this new market?
Right.
It's tempting to dismiss it.
As a toy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see where you're going with this. The CEO, focused on their existing market, might completely miss how big digital cameras could get.
Right. And that's what makes disruptive innovation so tricky.
Uh-huh.
They often start in a niche market.
Okay.
Seemingly less powerful.
Less attractive.
Yeah.
Than existing technologies.
But they improve so rapidly, and they can completely overturn everything.
So companies are stuck with this dilemma. Do they stick with their existing product, their loyal customers?
Right.
Or do they chase this unproven technology?
And what makes this even more challenging is that often listening to your best customers can lead you astray.
Wait, hold on. How can listening to your customers be a bad thing? Isn't that like the golden rule of business?
In the context of disruptive innovation, your customer base may not see the value of the new technology.
Because they're happy with what they've got.
Exactly. But a new underserved market, they might think it's perfect.
So you really got to keep your eyes open. Look for those trends.
Look at those emerging markets.
Even if your current customers aren't asking for it.
Christensen uses this great example from the disk drive industry.
Okay.
Remember those old, bulky 14-inch disk drives?
Vaguely.
I'm dating myself a little bit here.
Yeah, maybe.
The point is, they were once cutting edge.
Oh, for sure.
The companies that made them were constantly innovating.
Right.
Making them more powerful, listening to their customers.
Right, who were mainly?
Mainframe computer manufacturers.
Okay.
So they were focused on making the best 14-inch drives possible.
Squeezing every bit of performance.
Out of them. Yep.
Then along comes the 5.25-inch disk drive.
Right.
Smaller, less powerful.
Initially only used in those, emerging desktop PCs.
A market the mainframe manufacturers probably didn't even think about.
Yeah, they weren't worried about it at all.
This is starting to sound familiar. So focused on their customers and those incremental improvements that they missed this whole new market.
And Christensen shows how this pattern repeats.
Okay.
First, the new technology gets developed, often in the established companies themselves.
So it's not like they're completely unaware.
No.
They might even have a team on it.
Right.
Small team.
Yeah.
Under-resourced.
Nobody's paying attention to them.
Because the main market's not asking for it.
Then someone figures out there is a market for it.
Even if it's smaller.
Yeah.
Less demanding.
Right.
Than their current customer.
Smaller companies. Startups.
They see the potential.
I jump in.
They're focusing on that niche market.
The established players don't even care about.
Right.
Because they don't have an established business to protect.
They're not afraid to cannibalize their own sales.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this disruptive technology. It's brewing. It's in this niche market.
Uh-huh.
What happens next? The big players just watch.
Well, at first they might not even see it as a threat.
Right. They're happy to let the little guys play in the sandbox,
Right.
the less profitable sandbox.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Disruptive technologies, they don't stay stagnant?
They keep improving,
Yes.
often at a faster rate than the established technology.
Much faster.
So that 5.25-inch drive is getting more powerful.
More capable.
And suddenly, it's not just for niche customers anymore.
Exactly.
And this is where the established companies start to sweat.
Yeah.
The disruptive technology, it crosses the threshold.
It's good enough now to meet the needs of the mainstream customers.
And now they're playing catch-up. They're scrambling
Trying to adapt.
to this technology they dismissed.
That's right.
Often it's too late.
The new entrants, they've got a foothold.
They understand the technology.
They're nimble,
They're moving up market.
taking customers from the established players.
Wow, that's a pretty sobering thought,
It is.
especially for companies that have been successful for a long time.
They think they're invincible.
They think they can't be touched.
But things can change so quickly.
It really highlights how important it is to not just listen to your current customers,
That's right.
but to actively seek out and understand those emerging markets.
Emerging technologies, yeah.
So how can companies avoid falling into this trap? What can they do to stay ahead?
That's what we're going to talk about next.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
And don't forget to subscribe, like this episode, share your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you.
We do. So we've seen how these disruptive innovations can really sneak up on even the most successful companies.
The question is, how do you avoid becoming another cautionary tale?
Right, because just knowing about the innovator's dilemma doesn't solve it.
So what can companies actually do to navigate these disruptive forces?
One key strategy is creating separate, independent organizations
Okay.
to pursue these disruptive opportunities.
To give them some space.
Yeah, like room to breathe
Outside the core business.
outside those constraints, yeah.
So kind of like a Skunkworks project.
Yeah,
A small, agile team. They've got the freedom to experiment
iterate quickly
without all that bureaucracy.
out of the larger company.
It's not even just about being small and nimble.
It's more than that.
It's about values
Values.
and metrics for success.
Okay,
Remember how we talked about established companies being focused on high profit margins?
right.
A disruptive innovation may not have those margins initially.
So if you judge them by the same standards
They get killed off.
before they have a chance.
Right.
Makes sense. If you're judging a brand new disruptive innovation
Uh-huh.
based on the same metrics as your mature business,
Right.
it's never going to measure up.
And Christensen gives this great example with IBM
Okay.
and how they entered the personal computer market.
They were a mainframe company.
Right. They knew they couldn't develop the PC within their mainframe division.
Because the cultures were just too different.
Completely.
Like the mainframe division would be focused on
High profit margins.
serving their existing customer base.
The mainframe computer buyers, right.
So they set up a completely separate division,
They did. In Florida.
far, far away from headquarters.
In New York.
This gave the PC team the autonomy they needed.
To operate on a different set of values.
So they weren't constantly being compared
Measured.
against the mainframe division.
They had the space to grow on their own terms.
So that separation allowed them to succeed.
In a market, their existing structure would have stifled.
So sometimes to embrace innovation, you need to create a space where different rules apply.
Different values.
It's almost like a company needs to have,
What?
like an internal venture capital arm,
Uh-huh.
willing to bet on these potentially disruptive technologies.
That don't fit the mold?
Right.
Good analogy. Now, beyond setting up these separate organizations,
Yeah.
Christensen emphasizes understanding different value networks.
Different value networks. And that's-
Remember our example earlier of the mainframe market valuing performance above all else? While the PC market, they valued size and affordability.
It's like speaking different languages.
Right.
What makes a product valuable in one market could be completely irrelevant in another.
And that's crucial for identifying disruptive opportunities.
You need to look beyond your existing customer.
Understand the needs
The values.
of those emerging markets.
So it's not enough to just be aware of new technologies.
Nope.
You have to understand the context
The problems they are solving.
for a particular group of customers.
It all ties in together.
Okay, I see that. So how do companies differentiate between a disruptive innovation and just another shiny new technology? Are there telltale signs?
Christensen says they tend to have a few key characteristics.
Okay, give them to me.
First, they underperform established products.
In mainstream markets.
In mainstream markets.
That seems counterintuitive. We usually think of innovations being better, faster.
Stronger.
Yeah.
That's true for sustaining innovations,
Okay.
which improve existing products, along dimensions that mainstream customers value.
Okay.
But disruptive innovations are different.
Okay, so how are they different?
They appeal to a different set of customers,
Okay.
often in a smaller market,
Okay.
who are willing to accept a trade-off.
Give me an example.
Think about those early digital cameras.
Okay.
Lower resolution, but more portable.
More affordable.
Yes.
So it might not be the best product for the mainstream yet.
But it's good enough for a niche group of customers.
Yeah.
And that leads to the second characteristic.
What's that?
Disruptive innovations often have new features that those fringe customers value.
Even if the mainstream doesn't care about them yet.
Exactly.
Like those early hydraulic excavators.
Yes.
Less powerful.
But more maneuverable.
Which was important for smaller construction projects.
Landscaping.
Right.
The established market didn't need that.
But for a new market, it was a game changer.
Totally.
Okay, so underperforming in the mainstream, appealing to fringe customers.
With new features.
What's the third characteristic?
They're typically cheaper, simpler, smaller, or more convenient to use.
They democratize a product or service.
That was previously out of reach.
Like the first PCs.
Yep. Yeah.
Made computing power accessible to everybody.
Not just big corporations.
So these three characteristics can help companies spot potential disruption.
Even if they don't seem threatening.
So it's about being vigilant, looking beyond your immediate market.
And understanding the needs.
Of those fringe customers.
Absolutely. But recognizing those disruptive forces is only the first step.
What's the next step?
The real challenge is adapting, responding to them effectively.
Okay, and for that we need to delve a little bit deeper into
the psychology of how companies react.
We'll be right back. We've been talking about how to spot these disruptive innovations, the ones that can really sneak up on you. But recognizing them, that's just the first step.
Right.
How do companies adapt? How do they respond effectively?
That's where it gets interesting. Christensen argues that companies often miss these disruptive opportunities, not because of strategy, but because of their own values.
Okay, that's interesting. How do values play into this? I thought values were a good thing. For a company, I mean.
They can be, but when we talk about disruption, a company's values, they can be blinders, preventing them from seeing the potential of something that doesn't fit their existing model.
Okay.
Remember the disk drive industry?
Yeah.
Those established companies were so focused on high profit margins.
Right, serving those mainframe customers.
Exactly. And those values, while valid, made it hard to embrace the smaller 5.25-inch drives.
That eventually changed everything.
Their values made them prioritize their existing business model over the potential of a disruptive technology.
So it's almost like their strengths, what did make them successful, became their weaknesses.
Exactly, and this is crucial. Your existing values and processes, the things that have made you successful, they may not work with a disruptive innovation. You might need to work with a different set of metrics and priorities to succeed in that new market.
It's not about abandoning your values,
right,
but recognizing that they might not be the right way to evaluate a disruptive opportunity.
You need processes that allow you to assess those opportunities objectively, even if they seem strange or uncomfortable.
So being open to challenge, stepping outside your comfort zone.
That's key.
But you said that values can also be a source of strength.
Yeah. If a company's values include things like customer focus, a willingness to embrace change, a passion for innovation.
Those values could help them when facing disruption.
Because those values encourage them to explore, experiment, adapt.
So it's about aligning your values with the needs of both your existing business and those emerging markets. That disruption creates.
That's a great way to put it. It's a balance. Staying true to your core principles, while also being flexible, to adapt to a changing landscape.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the characteristics of disruption to the importance of values and creating separate organizations. What are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the biggest one is awareness. Being aware of the potential for disruption. In any industry, don't assume that your success will protect you.
No matter how dominant you are, there's always somebody working on a way to disrupt you.
Exactly. And remember to look beyond your existing customers. Seek out, understand those emerging markets and technologies.
Because those markets, they might be where the next big disruption comes from.
Absolutely. And finally, remember your values, your processes. While valuable, they might need to be adapted or even challenged to successfully navigate a disruptive innovation.
So be vigilant. Be curious.
Be willing to embrace change.
That's a great way to sum it up.
It is.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dives into the innovator's dilemma. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking.
We release new episodes every Monday and Thursday, so make sure to subscribe, like, and comment to stay updated. And if there's a topic you'd love for us to cover, leave a comment and let us know.
Thanks for listening.